my name is Elliott Mantock.
And this is Andrew Newell.
We are here today with our guest speaker, Clay Wisman.
Hi.
And this is Awesomecast!
It's so awesome.
So, yeah, we're sitting here taking a look at Elliott's computer over there, and not quite the best example of
fail.
Yeah, of how you should properly set up your system so that it's cooled.
Terrible.
Yeah. So, since Elliott's such a master at this, we'll let him start off the discussion.
Hey, don't be hating. To start off our discussion, I'd like to speak of the importance of an efficient cooling system in a computer. These not only include the CPU heatsink, but also include the computer case and tower too. Cooling your computer can oftentimes be the final subject matter to make or break the deal on a computer. When users begin to run applications, they oftentimes fail to realize that they are putting stress on their processor.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
By doing so, the CPU can become overheated and get up to a temperature ranging from 80 to 90 degrees Celsius.
Damn!
That's almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Damn!
Not only does a cool computer make for better speeds, but it also makes for a much more comfortable environment.
For the computer.
Wait, stop.
As I've described, the temperature of your computer is key to two important aspects: computing power and comfortability. When working at your computer, you would much rather be in a comfortable temperature. Well, it's a given that your computer is going to give off heat, but it's vital that the inside of the computer stays as cool as possible, without getting too cold, of course, to enhance performance. There are a lot of ways to handle airflow in a case. One way is to make it extremely efficient by reducing the distance of air from fans have to travel.
Derp.
This comes from the convenience of the product. Take the Cooler Master Half 932, for example. Yes, it is the most expensive product on the line, but it provides. When buying computer parts in general, the more you spend, the better the product is. The ventilation on the case is simply outstanding. Hey, is that modular, man?
I think it is.
Hey, that's me!
Hey, okay, this is Modular Man segment about modular power supplies and why Elliott should have chosen one.
Yeah, okay, this is Modular Man Clay Wisman. Alright, so today I'll be discussing the difference between a modular and non-modular power supply and the effect that each has on the cooling of your computer case. First of all, what is the difference between a modular and a non-modular power supply?
I don't know. Why don't you tell us?
Alright, Andrew, I will tell you. Basically, the only difference has to do with the cables on the back. On a traditional non-modular power supply, all the cables that you could ever need are already attached to the back, and there's no way to add or remove any.
Oh, no!
On a modular power supply, however, none of the cables come attached, so you can add and remove cables as you need them. Now, as this pertains to the cooling and airflow of your case, a modular power supply is going to be much more helpful. Because there are no excess cables lying around in the case, there is much less in the case to block the airflow. There are ways to hide cables out of the way on a non-modular power supply, but this tends to cause problems if you ever decide to upgrade and need to access those additional cables.
Elliott.
Although not having all the extra cables in the case is nice, it doesn't come without its cost. In general, a modular power supply is going to be much more expensive to manufacture, and therefore the extra cost is passed on to you. Some companies have, however, come up with a hybrid solution which includes all the essential cables attached and then extra slots for additional cables. This is a perfect blend between price and cable management.
This is the end of side one.
In order to continue,
Awesomecast!
Please flip your computer over and press the space bar.
Okay, so now here's Andrew to talk to you about overclocking. And for all you computer enthusiasts who already knew everything that we just told you in this show, you might want to listen to this one.
Yes, that mysterious topic many people seem afraid of. Others jump on it, and people like me embrace it. Yes, overclocking can damage your system components. However, that is only when it's done wrong. Today, I'm going to tell you how to properly cool your system when you do plan to overclock and what to do when certain things happen while overclocking.
Yeah, Elliot, do not try this at home.
Derp.
So the first real step to properly cooling your CPU, motherboard, and whatever else you'd like to be overclocking is to get a good heatsink. Personally, I like Zalman brand products, although I do not know that there are some other good coolers out there like Thermaltake Typhoon series and such. Basically, what you're looking for in a good CPU cooler is a high-quality construction and good thermally conductive metals. The best metal out there to conduct heat would be gold, but since nobody can afford to make coolers out of gold, we use copper as the next best thing. Right after copper is aluminum. I personally prefer copper heatsinks because they give that extra 1 to 2 degrees Celsius that'll help you out when overclocking. Look for large heatsink surfaces. A good rule of thumb is that if you're going to really overclock right, you want to get a cooler that is decently bigger than your fist. Typically, the bigger, the better. Also, make sure it has a decent number of heat pipes. Some brands try to advertise a direct touch technology, but I haven't seen too much of a difference in terms of cooling capacity. In my overclock system, I'm running Core 2 Quad Q6600 B3 stepping at 3.4 GHz. That's an overclock of 1.0 GHz from stock. My biggest issue with this overclock is that even with the excellent Zalman CNPS 9700 LED cooler, my CPU can reach an ungodly temperature of around 80 to 90 degrees Celsius.
Damn!
By the way, learn to use Celsius, not Fahrenheit, because many tools read out in Celsius and it's good to know relative temperatures. For my build, I think it's about time to go water cooling, but we'll save that for another episode.
And that's all for this episode. We'd like to thank Clay Wisman, Mr. Modular, for joining us. We'd also like to thank our committed listeners for tuning into this week's episode.
And next week, we'll be talking about water cooling. Elliott's going to be talking about why I'm water cooling, and Clay's going to be talking about, well, nothing, because he's going to be reading about me in a book at home and why there's so many D's in HD.
And once again, thanks for listening to
Awesomecast.
It's so awesome.